I am deeply concerned about reform because I think they will toxically divide our country and rip it apart. And I'm up for that fight.
David Lammy erupts in Parliament after Keir Starmer's shocking move to support Nigel Farage. You're not going to believe what just happened in Parliament. Because in a move no one saw coming, David Lammy just erupted, right there on the floor of the House, after Keir Starmer made a statement that completely blindsided everyone in the Labour benches. And get this, it all had to do with Nigel Farage, the very man who's been one of Labour's fiercest critics for years, suddenly found unexpected support coming from Starmer himself. And for Lammy, that was the last straw. It started during what was supposed to be a routine session, just another day in British politics. But when Starmer stood up to respond to a question about national unity and cross-party dialogue, things took a dramatic turn. Starmer said, and I quote, "We may not agree with Nigel Farage on much, but when it comes to reconnecting with those who feel unheard in our country, we should be willing to listen even across political lines." That one line, that single sentence, was enough to send shockwaves through the chamber. And David Lammy didn't take it lightly. Within seconds, Lammy was on his feet. His tone was sharp, emotional, and filled with disbelief. He turned to Starmer and said, "With respect, Keir, listening is one thing, legitimizing is another. We can't stand for the same values and then stand beside Nigel Farage." You could feel the air change. The chamber fell silent. Some MPs leaned forward. Others looked away. Because this wasn't a debate, it was an open confrontation between two of Labour's most senior figures, right in front of the cameras. And that's when Lammy's frustration truly spilled over. He slammed his folder down on the bench and continued, "Our movement fought to keep division out of British politics. We can't start embracing the same rhetoric we once challenged." Starmer didn't interrupt, but his expression said it all. He simply replied, "David, leadership requires engagement even with those we disagree with. That's how democracy works." The tension was electric. It wasn't shouting. It wasn't chaos. It was something worse, that quiet, unmistakable kind of anger that fills every inch of a room when two leaders realize they're not on the same page anymore. And while all this was happening, Nigel Farage was trending online again. Within minutes, clips of the exchange were everywhere. Hashtags like hashtag Lammy vs. Starmer and hashtag Farage effect dominated social media. One viewer posted, "This is wild. Starmer backing Farage's message? Lammy's right to call it out." Another countered, "Finally, someone's talking sense. Starmer's just being pragmatic. Britain needs unity, not division." But it wasn't just the public reacting. Insiders within the Labour Party were stunned. One senior Labour aide reportedly told Sky News, "This was brewing for weeks. Lammy's been warning the leadership about soft messaging towards Farage-style politics. Today, it boiled over." And another Labour MP, speaking anonymously, said, "You could see Lammy's disappointment. It wasn't just anger, it was disbelief. He didn't expect that line from Keir, not after everything they've discussed privately." Farage himself responded just hours later, and his reaction only added fuel to the fire. He posted on X, formerly Twitter, Well, even Keir Starmer agrees with me now. Took them long enough." That single post racked up over 500,000 views in under 2 hours. Farage, ever the provocateur, knew exactly how to turn a moment of Labour tension into a headline victory for himself. And it worked. By evening, news outlets from the BBC to GB News were replaying the footage. Commentators couldn't stop talking about it. Was this the start of a split within Labour's senior leadership? Or just a passionate debate between two strong personalities? Some analysts argued that Starmer's approach was strategic, an attempt to win back voters who drifted toward right-leaning populism. Others said it was a tactical mistake that risks alienating Labour's progressive core. But one thing's for sure, Lammy's outburst wasn't planned. It was raw, emotional, and utterly real. And you know what makes this even more fascinating? Just weeks ago, Lammy had spoken at an event warning against platforming divisive voices. He said, "If we start adopting the language of those who thrive on outrage, we risk becoming the very thing we're fighting against." So for him, hearing his own party leader publicly speak positively, even slightly, about Nigel Farage's message, must have felt like betrayal. And that's why this moment hit so hard. It wasn't about one comment. It was about principle, the soul of what Labour stands for. The backlash grew as the night went on. Political podcasts dissected every word. Talk radio hosts debated whether Lammy was right to confront Starmer so openly. And supporters of both sides began drawing their lines in the sand. One prominent commentator said, "This isn't just a disagreement, it's the first real test of Labour's identity under Starmer's leadership." Another put it more bluntly. Lammy's eruption shows there's still deep unease inside the party about where it's heading next. Was this just a heated moment in Parliament, or the beginning of something much bigger? Because moments like this don't just fade away. They ripple through the political bloodstream, they shape narratives, influence voters, and sometimes expose fractures that no one was ready to admit existed. For now, the official Labour statement is trying to downplay it. A spokesperson said, "The Labour Party remains united under Keir Starmer's leadership. Healthy debate is part of our democratic culture." But insiders know unity isn't about words. It's about trust. And after today's outburst, it's hard to ignore the tension building behind those closed doors. So here's where things stand. Keir Starmer's push for dialogue across political divides may sound noble, but it's already dividing his own team. David Lammy's passionate defense of Labour's values earned him both praise and criticism. And Nigel Farage? He's sitting back, watching two of his political opponents fight over whether his message deserves a seat at the table. Because that's politics, right? You never know who'll stand together next, or who'll erupt when they do. And the question everyone's asking tonight: if this is how things look now, what happens the next time Labour faces pressure on the national stage? Because one thing's clear: this isn't over.